just to see the word come alive to people is really cool. Like to watch, and it connects you on a different level. I mean, it sounds a little cliche and cheesy, but it's true. I mean, I think when you grow in God next to someone who's also growing in God, studying the same thing, it connects you. About 2 years ago, I think, I read the book, The Turquoise Table. The author wanted to be a front yard person instead of a backyard person. So she got a cheap picnic table and painted it bright turquoise and put it by the front of her yard, right by the road. And she planned to sit out there for a certain amount of time each day and just say hi to anybody that walked by. And so that kind of started things rolling in my head of what kind of person am I in my neighborhood. And ever since moving here 3 years ago, I knew I have wanted to get to know my neighbors on a personal basis, not just a wave. And I just kind of had this moment where I was like, I need to stop just asking and praying and start doing. I knew the Dayton Women in the Word study was coming up. One neat thing about studying the Bible, especially with people local to you, is that is contagious. That passion and love for His Word, it's contagious. So I decided to ask my dad to build me a table. I then painted an invitation and made it real general. So I just said, whether you're 15 or 150, it doesn't matter. Whether you're Catholic or Baptist or never even heard of Jesus, it doesn't matter. Just know that you're invited to a summer Bible study. I went into this study with 2 goals: get to know our neighbors and learn more about God together. And kept them very loose with open hands, because I've learned that if you go into something with closed hands of what you want to happen, you shut the door for God to work in big ways. We pass out 55 invitations in the mailboxes May 5th. Then at the end of May, a tornado went through our neighborhood, and the plan was to start the first week in June. It was really devastating to our neighborhood. As you can hear, there's still chainsaws going on a regular basis in our neighborhood. It didn't sink in when we came up out of the basement that we would see stuff totally destroyed. I don't think you ever really think it's going to happen to you. So you see houses two streets over leveled, and you realize, like, this doesn't really matter. My house doesn't matter. Only thing that matters is what God kept safe was the people. I had the thought of, do I cancel or do I just keep going? And honestly, I think when you decide to do something for God's glory, the devil wants nothing more than to stop it. So after the tornado went through, I passed out another little invitation to the mailboxes that was handwritten because we didn't have power. And it just said, we're still on, even though we don't have power and don't have a deck where I had planned to have it. Honestly, I thought maybe there would be me and maybe another person, but it ended up being like 17 and 18. Huge amount of women came that first week, and we had just had 3 huge trees removed from our back of our house over our house using a crane, and so our yard was covered in trees and brush, and you couldn't even see the table. So my kids were waving them down, telling them to come, and they came, and it brought me to tears. It was just awesome to see that. It still brings me, still thinking about it is moving, because I think it was just really neat that they wanted to know other women in the neighborhood, and they wanted to know more about God. And we didn't have a ton in common other than we lived in the same neighborhood and we wanted to study the Bible together. And so getting together with our eyes fixed on that and our eyes fixed on God, I think really made it powerful. One of the things I love about Dayton Women in the Word is that the main text that you use is the Bible. It's not a bunch of other stuff. Other studies are great, but I love that it's all hinged on the truth. One of the things we did when we first started was we went around and said why we decided to come and what was a fear we had. And one common fear was that they just didn't know much about the Bible and felt like they were nervous to study it because they were afraid that other people would know more than them. But we said that we were going to fill our conversation with grace, and we were going to stay on things that unite us, which was the Word of God. One of the women that came said, good news, I'm keeping up with my study, and for the first time, it doesn't feel foreign to me to read the Bible. So I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's why this kind of stuff is so important, because to be able to read the Bible and have it be personal instead of foreign, like, that's where it's at. If you're thinking about wanting to get to know your neighbors and you're thinking about studying this with people who you do life with, I would say do it. And I would say don't wait until there's a convenient time. Every week when we needed to meet, there was something that came up that was like, this is a really good reason to cancel. Like, I would have a migraine, or a tornado went through, or we had no power, or chainsaws were going so loud we couldn't hear. Don't worry about having things perfect. We don't need that, right? I mean, we just need the Word of God. Your house can be a mess, and you're being real, and people will value that. One of the things I was praying when I was wanting to know my neighbors and wanting God to use us here was that God would tear down walls. I didn't realize that He was going to literally tear down fences. I've just learned that when you take a risk and fix your eyes on Jesus, when you take that risk with the goal of giving Him glory, because it was all Him, He shows up big. And I've seen that in a couple other ways in my life, and every time it just feels like such an honor to get to be a part of it and to get to play a part in the story that God's writing. And He wrote a really cool story this summer through our neighborhood.